So my freezers are seriously empty. So we are gonna get started on another big batch freezer cooking video. And again, we are gonna try to get this one done in 2 days. I don't know why, it's just my magic number. For this video, I thought we'd do something a little different and take our inspiration from the Costco frozen food section. If you've been in Costco's frozen food section, you would see that they have a ton of prepared foods, ready to eat meals. And you know what, we can do that too. We can do that too at home. So today's video, I took a good inventory of what Costco has. We are gonna use some of those ideas and just sort of make them our own. I'm not gonna be able to fit all of everything that Costco has in this video, so I might do a couple of these, but for this first one, we're gonna get some good stuff started. Welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name's Nicole, and on the menu today, we will be making some breakfast, lunches, and dinners. So we'll start off with these sausage, egg, and white cheddar breakfast sandwiches using brioche buns. These ones at Costco are made by La Boulangère. Probably saying that wrong. I've probably said it wrong my whole life. We're also gonna do some of these French toast sticks and cinnamon sugar, and these are by Farm Rich over at Costco. We're also gonna make up some of those breakfast bowls that Jimmy Dean sells. They have their meat lovers bowl, uses eggs, potatoes, sausage, cheddar cheese, bacon. For some lunches, we are gonna make up some of those corn dogs similar to what Foster Farms sells at Costco. And then some of those little bagel bites, pizza snacks that I'm pretty sure my son probably and husband will love. And then for a couple of dinners, my Costco sells a few of the items from Real Good Foods. And these ones I have not tried yet, but they looked really good on the package. It's the poblano chicken enchiladas. So we are gonna make up our own poblano sauce and create a couple meals of those. And then the Kirkland beef and Italian sausage lasagna, which my family has had many times, and we love it. So my family and I are currently on a little bit of different eating schedules and menus right now. So what I'm gonna do at this freezer meal session is when I package them up, I'm gonna do a bit smaller containers so they're a little more individualized, but we have a lot to do, so let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started on the French toast cinnamon sticks. So in my dish here, I'm gonna add my eggs. Okay, and I'm gonna add my milk. I'm using whole milk here. And I'm also gonna add in some vanilla, which is what I would normally do. I have some dark brown sugar that I'm gonna add. For this many eggs, I'm gonna do maybe about 1/4 of a cup. And I'm gonna add in my cinnamon. Just gonna eyeball that. And then a little bit of nutmeg too. Mix that up. Okay, so I have my oven preheating at 350 right now. I'm just gonna bake up these sticks just to make it a little easier on myself so I don't have to wash over a stove. But while I was at Costco, I picked up the twin pack of this artisanal bakery style bread that I'm gonna be cutting up for my sticks. So I'm just gonna cut these up into just 3s here using my bread knife. And all we're gonna do is stick these in. And then I have just a baking sheet with some parchment paper that I'm gonna set these on. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll bake these for about 10 minutes at 350, and then I'll go in and then flip them and do another 10 to 15 minutes. So I'll work on some other things for now. We can get started on the breakfast sandwiches. So I have a couple of packages here of some brioche buns. So these breakfast sandwiches use sausage, egg, white cheddar on the brioche bun. So I'm gonna go ahead and use this Jimmy Dean sausage. Okay, so while I have my sausage cooking, I'm going to make up the cinnamon sugar for my French toast. So right now, I have a stick of butter melting on the stove top, and I'm just gonna let it brown slightly until it gets like a little toasty and you get some nutty flavor from it. I'm gonna add about half a cup of sugar and a tablespoon of cinnamon. And we'll mix that up. And I'm gonna brush on my melted butter onto the sticks and then sprinkle on some cinnamon sugar on top. Okay, so all of my French toast batches are done. I just placed them in a couple containers right now to finish cooling before I put them in the freezer. So these trays are pretty hefty. I got plenty of sticks here just out of that one loaf of bread. I gave them a try and they do taste really good, but they're a bit more time consuming than I like my French toast to be. So I don't know if I'll make these again, but they do taste good. So we're gonna set those aside because I want them completely cooled before going into the freezer. While the French toast was finishing up, you saw that I already cooked my sausage patties and my eggs. So I have my cheese slices. Those sandwiches use white cheddar. And I'm gonna start assembling with my brioche buns here. So we're done with our breakfast sandwiches. I love making breakfast sandwiches because they're so easy. So we have 12 in this bag ready for the freezer. Now let's move on to something else super easy. Those bagel bites. Now I have a bag of these mini bagels. There's 12 in here, so that would make about 24 bagel bites. And then I just have some mini pepperonis. I have my block of mozzarella that I'm gonna shred up in my food processor because it's the fastest way. And some Italian seasoning. And then I just have here some of this Ragu Simply 8, which is no sugar added, pasta sauce. I'm gonna use this because it's already in my fridge open and I don't want it to go to waste. If I didn't have this on hand, then I would make up my own marinara sauce or pizza sauce. But I do not like to waste food, so I'm going to use this. Let's get started on these super easy bagel bites. Now that I have my bagel bites sealed up, I wasn't exactly sure how to package these so that the toppings like stay on these bagel bites. I did it two different ways. I did Ziploc sandwich baggies, and then you saw me film, I did the press and seal wrap. The press and seal seems like a better solution. Honestly, I don't even know if the Bagel Bites company has figured out how to keep these toppings on, because at least from what I remember in college, when you would pull Bagel Bites out of the package, those little toppings were hanging on for dear life. I would heat these up in the air fryer to crisp them up. I packaged them in 2s because I would give my toddler 2, and then my husband would probably eat like 4 or 6. So I packaged them up in 2s and then just put them back in their own bag, and I'll stick them in the freezer like this. All right, we are back with day 2 of cooking on these freezer meals. I didn't get as much done as I wanted on day 1, but that's okay. We're just gonna power through it today and get started on our last breakfast, which was the Jimmy Dean inspired breakfast bowls, meat lovers. So I'm gonna start peeling my potatoes. I just have 3 potatoes here. And from the boxes, it showed that these bowls have potatoes, sausage, egg, bacon, and cheese. I've never actually purchased these Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls before, just because I can make all of that stuff at home. I'm also a little hesitant about how well these are gonna do on the reheat side. For me, I think probably our best bet is gonna be to thaw them first, either in the microwave or the air fryer. So I'm just gonna start chopping up my potatoes and get them ready to cook and crisp up on the stove. Because of the reheat tends to make things soggy sometimes, I'm going to try and get these as crispy as possible on the stove. I'm trying to put my potatoes in like a bigger sized pan so that they have a lot of good surface area to be able to get brown and not steam. So we're just gonna let these sit here on the stove for a while they brown up. So our potatoes are working. I'm gonna go ahead and get started on my eggs. I have some aluminum trays that I'm going to be packing these in the freezer. You see some of my eggs have these Sharpie lines on them. It's kind of weird, but I like to mark my eggs, the older eggs, so I know which ones to use first, because I don't like food to go bad or spoil, so I just mark my eggs so that I know, and because I put them all in the same container. I'm just gonna add in a little bit of milk. I just eyeball this. I'm using whole milk, and give that a whisk. Okay, I'm gonna move over to the stove, give my potatoes a stir, and get started cooking my breakfast sausage. I'm gonna use Jimmy Dean breakfast sausage since these are Jimmy Dean breakfast bowls. So let's get started cooking that up too. Okay, now that our sausage is done, before I get started getting these eggs in the pan, I'm gonna get my bacon cooking up, but I'm gonna do it in the air fryer so that it's just less messy for me. So I'm using Kirkland thick cut bacon, center cut. This is the one that we always buy and my husband really likes it. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and pour my eggs into here and start these scrambling up. Check on my potatoes. They have really good color on them now. I'm actually not sure if the Jimmy Dean ones use crispy potatoes. They look kind of soft when I've seen them before. But these are good. I'm gonna go ahead and start seasoning these with a little bit of garlic salt and pepper. Okay, so my scrambled eggs are at a pretty soft scramble at this point. So what I'm gonna do is just add in some salt, not too much because the breakfast meats have a lot of salt. In with a lot of pepper because we like pepper. And then I know the real bowls don't have green onions in them, but I'm gonna put these in here because I already have them prepped in my fridge. And I think it'll just add a little bit of color and some mild onion flavor, which we like. That's the beauty of making things yourself in your own kitchen, is that you can modify and make things how you like them. So these eggs are almost done. I want to get them to kind of a harder scramble, and then we'll set those aside. Okay. Our bacon is done, it's nice and crispy. I'm gonna take this out and let it drain. So I have my assembly line ready for these bowls. And I just have some of these small aluminum trays that I'm drying off right now because I gave them a wash first before I wanted to put the food in here. I'm gonna fill it with my potatoes, eggs, sausage, bacon, and then for my cheeses, I'm using a mixture of Colby Jack because I have it on hand, and then also some of the mozzarella that I shredded up yesterday, because mozzarella is just gonna help it stay really cheesy when it melts. So let's get these prepared now. So I made about 6 of those breakfast bowls and I got those ready for the freezer. Now we're moving on to our corn dogs. The ones that they sell at Costco are honey corn dogs. So we are gonna be adding honey to our batter as well. So I'm gonna get started with my dry ingredients. We're gonna do 1.5 cups of some yellow cornmeal, 1.5 cups of flour, 1 tablespoon of baking powder. I'm gonna add a tablespoon of sugar and a 1/4 teaspoon of some ground mustard and 1 teaspoon of salt. And I'm just gonna give that a mix and set it aside. Now for our wet ingredients, I'm gonna throw in 1.5 cups of buttermilk. I'm gonna add 2 tablespoons of honey. I'm just gonna eyeball this. And I'm gonna crack in 4 eggs. And we'll just give that a whisk. Now I'm just gonna create just a little bit of a well in my dry ingredients to pour in my wet ingredients. I'm gonna mix this up, and I don't want to over mix. It should still be a little on the lumpy side. Now, I don't want to dip my corn dogs in here right away. So I'm going to let this sit in the refrigerator for a few minutes while we get our corn dogs prepped. All right, so now I have my batter in the refrigerator. These hot dogs here I'm using, these are just the Kirkland all beef hot dogs. And because they're like on the larger side, I'm gonna go ahead and cut these in half just so that they're more of a, I guess, a lunch type portion, since these are meant to be for lunches. And we'll get a total of 12 out of these. And then I just have some regular skewer sticks. These ones are a little on the longer side, but I like to get those because it's just easier for me when they're frying up in the pan to turn them, because you have all this extra stick handy. So I'm gonna skewer all 12 of these. I have some cornstarch here that I'm just gonna kind of dust these on. I want to have a good layer of the cornstarch so that once we do go ahead and dip it in the batter, it's just not sliding off everywhere and it actually adheres. I have all my corn dogs here, and I have them on a resting tray so that they don't get soggy. And I did add a little bit of salt on them as they were coming out of the oil. So I'm gonna let them, of course, completely cool down before we package them up for the freezer. But I think that they got some really good color on them. And I know that these will reheat well because I've made sort of like the breakfast version of these before with breakfast sausage and pancake. All right, these are done. All right, so what I did with the corn dogs is I went ahead and threw them into the freezer to sort of flash freeze a bit before we actually package them in a bag. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started on my lasagna assembly. So when I read the ingredients on that lasagna, it does include, it says caramelized onions. So I went ahead and chopped up just some white onion, and we're gonna get this started on the stove in a pan with some sauce. So I have this organic marinara sauce already in my fridge opened. So I'm going to use this as the sauce. I'll probably add some cans of tomato sauce or puree to it as well. And then I already have cooked up from this morning just some Italian spicy sausage and some ground beef, because I believe the Kirkland one uses both. So I'm gonna mix those both in the sauce as well. So let's get started on that. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of olive oil and my onions. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and add in my garlic. Half of this Italian sausage. This is spicy Italian. And then half ground beef, my jar of marinara. And I'm adding tomato sauce. Give that a stir. And then I'm gonna add just a bit of salt, a good amount of Italian seasoning, and give that a stir. And I'm just gonna let this simmer on the stove for just a few minutes. Okay, so while that's simmering on the stove, we're gonna work on our ricotta filling. So I just have here 15 ounces of ricotta that I'm gonna throw in, and I'm gonna throw in 1 egg. And then I also have a bunch of parsley that I have in my fridge chopped up. I'm gonna throw a good amount of that in there and give that a stir. It's pretty thick, so I think we can start assembling now. So again, I have some aluminum trays that I bought for these. I just washed them up, 3, so I'm hoping to get 5 of these. I also have some fresh basil from this like kids farmer's market that I bought, so I'm gonna add that in as well. Okay, so I have my lasagna assembly ready. I just have some regular lasagna noodles that I'm using. And so when you look at the picture of the Kirkland lasagna, it shows that it has 2 layers of the meat sauce and then 1 thick layer of the ricotta. So that's what we're gonna try and mimic. Okay, so change of plan. This only ended up making 3 lasagnas, but these each are pretty hefty lasagnas. And so is the one at Costco though. So I'm gonna get these, these pans come with covers. So I'm gonna get this covered up, I'll label them and we'll add these to the freezer. Okay, so I had my corn dogs in the freezer to sort of flash freeze. And that way we could just package them up all together in a bag and they don't stick to each other or anything. So they're pretty frozen now. We have 11 because my husband actually ate one earlier. He said they're really good. They smell really good. I can smell the honey in them. So how I would reheat these is I would thaw them ahead of time and stick them in the air fryer to make sure the outside, the coating is nice and crispy when it gets eaten. If you had to use the microwave, then I would wrap it up in like a damp paper towel first. But I really think the air fryer is the way to go on these. These are ready for the freezer now. We are back at day 3, unfortunately. So when I was pulling out all of the ingredients to make our final meal, those poblano enchiladas, I noticed that my cilantro went bad last night, and that really stinks because I normally prep and store my herbs really well and to help extend their shelf life. I don't know what happened. I guess a little bit of poor planning on my part. We're gonna push forward because my husband saw how disappointed I was and he graciously picked up some cilantro for us when he was out this morning. So I have it here now. I've just been soaking it in some water in a bowl to help wash it, which is what I would normally do to get all of the kind of dirt or anything grimy off of it. So I have that soaking up. We're gonna go ahead and finish this last meal. To get started on the poblano sauce, I want to go ahead and get my vegetables roasted. So let's get those prepped and get them on a sheet pan and shift them to the oven to broil for a few minutes. Okay, so in my foil lined pan, I just have 2 poblano peppers here. I am following a recipe for this since I've never made poblano cream sauce. So I'm going to double the recipe, 2 poblano peppers, and get those in the pan. I'm also gonna add this red onion that's cut open because I've been using it. It calls for 2 cloves of garlic, so I'm gonna go ahead and throw in 4. So I'm going to be broiling these on high in my oven. I just wanna get the onions and garlic roasted, and the poblano peppers, I really need those to blister because we're gonna need to peel the skin off afterwards. So those might take a little longer, but we'll throw these in for now. And then I also have an entire bunch of green onions that I'm also gonna toss in this pan. I'm gonna add this to the broiler and then turn it maybe every 2 minutes or so until I see some good roast action. So let's get those in. So while those are in the oven, I'm gonna keep an eye on it, but we're gonna get started on working on our chicken. My husband actually cooked up some chicken tenderloins for me, just in the air fryer with some simple garlic, salt, and pepper. I'm gonna use this chicken and then just shred it up or just cut it up to work on our filling for these enchiladas. Check on our vegetables. So you can see these are starting to blister nicely. I'm gonna go ahead and turn them. See, that looks good. I'm gonna turn my onion, which still needs some work. My garlic, maybe a couple more minutes. And my green onions. All right, so I got my vegetables out of the broiler. And I went ahead, see they look nice and blistered. I'm just putting it in this bowl here. And I'm gonna cover it with some plastic wrap for maybe about 15 minutes until they cool. And the steam heat will help me to remove the skins. So I'm gonna set that aside for now. And then I have my chicken all shredded up here. I just have some mild diced green chilies, nothing spicy. These are just mild. And I'm gonna add these to my chicken filling. Now, so while we're waiting for our poblanos to steam, I think we can go ahead and get started rolling out the enchiladas. So the Real Good Foods ones, like on the package, say that they use chicken breast, the poblano sauce, Monterey Jack cheese, and flour tortilla. So I went ahead and shredded up a block of Monterey Jack in my food processor. Since they're using flour tortillas, I went out and bought these carb balance ones. Technically, my husband's not a huge fan of any of the low carb tortillas. Maybe he won't be able to tell. So I have here, just again, my aluminum pans that we're gonna use to package these up. Normally, I would heat up my tortillas in the microwave in a wrapped up paper towel to get them more pliable for rolling. But these Mission Brands ones are like very soft and they fold very easily. So I'm gonna go ahead and get my chicken rolled up and then we'll work on our poblano cream sauce. All right, so let's get started on this poblano cream sauce. I'm gonna add to my food processor all of my roasted vegetables. I'm also adding my fresh cilantro. I'm gonna go in with 2 tablespoons of olive oil since I'm doubling this. And the recipe calls for 3/4 cup of sour cream. I've been substituting my sour cream with Greek yogurt because it has more protein, plain Greek yogurt, not flavored. And honestly, I can't even taste the difference anymore. This works perfectly fine. A little bit of salt and pepper, just to taste. So all I did is after I peeled them, I cut off the stem and then took out a lot of the seeds and gave them like a rough chop before adding them in. Give it a mix and then see how it tastes if we need to add more seasoning. Almost forgot, I was supposed to add lime. So I'm just gonna go ahead and squirt in a big amount of lime in here. All right, so our sauce is done. I just added a little more salt and pepper for taste. So let's get this poured out. I ended up rolling the enchiladas in 2 per pack because they're quite hefty. And I'm gonna go ahead and pour on our poblano cream sauce and our Monterey Jack. So our cream sauce, actually, it came out a lot more green than the one that Real Foods looks like on their packaging, which is completely fine with me because you can actually see the ingredients, which is always nice. So let's get these finished off. All right, friends, we are officially done with this freezer meal video of our Costco inspired meals. This was a really fun one. There are so many other Costco freezer foods that I want to try and recreate and make my own. So let me know if you enjoyed this one and we can whip up another video. I gotta say, even though it extended to 3 days, well, 2.5 days, I don't feel that bad about it. I just finished my last meal and I still feel super energized. I think it still worked out great. If you want to hang out with me some more in the kitchen, go ahead and click on one of these videos up here and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.